All right. Welcome, everybody, to another bi weekly episode of the AFC Northcast. Bi weekly, right? Or I don't know if that's right. Twice
Yeah,
weekly.
yeah. I think bi-weekly for sure.
There you go. That lovely, soothing voice you hear, as always, is Chad,
Stiller Chad to you.
Stiller Chad. And this is Joey. We are uh, a dynamic duo rather than a
Traumatic trio.
tremendous trio today. It's Thursday, December 19th. There is currently a big hole in my life that for the last 4 months has been filled with Thursday night football. Um, but we're going to make it, guys. We're going to make it through. And maybe that means we got more people on here. So we are here to talk about Week 16, previewing the action in the AFC North. We have a divisional matchup, and we have a matchup of some really freaking crappy teams. And even the Steelers matchup is pretty interesting because pretty much every game the Steelers are in for the rest of the year is going to be interesting, I think. They just
Yeah,
are built to
probably.
play interesting football games, and that's how it goes.
As long as interesting means close and not high scoring, then yes.
Guaranteed, yeah.
Exactly.
But first, we'll do some news and notes. Do you want to kick us off? I know, well, I'll kick us
You
off
lead off because
because
it's not
I have
AFC
some
North.
outside
Yeah.
division stuff to talk about. Um, Yesterday, Herman Boone died. He was 84 years old. That was the high school football coach at T.C. Williams of Remember the Titans fame. He was
Hmm.
played by Denzel Washington. And speaking of a time when there was no water at practice because water was for pussies, Tom Coughlin got fired also yesterday.
I didn't know how you were going to get there.
Notorious taskmaster and hard ass Tom Coughlin, anti players coach, was the executive vice president of football operations for the Jags, whatever that means. Um, and the NFLPA, the Players Association, for those that don't know, came out um, with a bunch of fines that had been in arbitration that got rescinded and sent out a notice to players warning them to basically to not sign with the Jaguars. And then the headline of the fines, there was a bunch of fines. A lot of the players that have since left were subject to some of them, like Jalen Ramsey. Um, Dante Fowler was the biggest one. He had a reported $700,000 in fines from 2018 when he was rehabbing an injury on the IR for missing training sessions with the to rehab his injury with the team that are not in fact mandatory. But Tom Coughlin fined him for missing them anyways.
Is it
This shit's
true that
crazy.
Tom Coughlin used to fine players for being less than 5 minutes early to
Yeah,
meetings?
yeah.
I
I
mean,
think that's like an urban legend type of thing because I thought, and maybe it's been embellished since he was has not been a head coach anymore. I thought it was 15 minutes. But yeah, they called it like Coughlin time. Like,
yeah, like you like had a saying. He was like, if you're not however many minutes early, you're late.
yeah,
It's
clown,
crazy.
clown.
But I mean, they knew what they're getting into, right? Like he's a fall guy. This is a classic fall guy situation, which means anytime you're near the top of a hierarchy and as chief or vice chief or whatever his title was of football operations, he'll get another job. He'll be fine. He's gonna be just fine. Someone's
Yeah,
gonna look at that and be like, I like the cut of his jib. Save some scratch. Get these players toeing the
yeah.
line. You need them to toe the line. Yeah. Bring him in. He'll do right
Yeah.
by us.
Maybe he can be Freddie Kitchens' like enforcer. That way,
Yeah,
Freddie can maintain players' coach status, and Tom Coughlin can inactivate guys for whole games for no reason.
dude, Cincinnati's always pinching pennies. He sounds like just the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, they just bring him in as a consultant. Him and Hugh Jackson, whoever else. They'll just have a staff of unpaid consultants and no coordinators next year.
I like it. I've been meaning to look this up, and maybe as we get closer to the end of the season, I will. But did you know that Cincinnati's scouting department is 2 people? They have 2 scouts.
I don't know if I've heard that or not. They're a freaking mess.
How could you possibly do it? Like most teams, like the Steelers, have a scouting department just for players currently in the NFL, so that if like people get dropped off practice squads, they're
Yeah.
like ready. Or or if they need a squad, they have like a plan. 2 people to scout everything? Can you believe that?
That's crazy.
It's like amazing
Those are
to
the
think
busiest
about.
guys in the NFL.
It really just goes to show that like you can get lucky. Like they've made good draft picks,
Yeah,
which
somehow.
is like amazing.
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Bengals, they've come out publicly saying that AJ Green, the man, the myth, the legend, he's still playing. He's still a player. Quote, check myself there. He's not playing, but he is a player. They've come out and said that if they can't get a deal done with him, he's in a contract here, that they're going to use the franchise tag. And AJ Green is not thrilled about it. He has come out and said that he hates the rookie wage scale. He hates the franchise tag. He understands that the NFL is a business, but if they're going to make that type of business decision, he is going to also have to make business decisions for himself. He said he wouldn't hold out next year, but he's certainly going to be skipping stuff whenever he can. You know that.
Yeah, it could be a la Earl Thomas his last year in Seattle. Like, I don't think I'm going to practice today. My back hurts. Or
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to kind of assault a person's character without knowledge. But Justin's not here, and he's the most fact needy person in this podcast, so I'll do it. It's very possible that he's been doing it already this year. Like the team is junk. He had a high ankle sprain. He's been out for like 5 months.
yeah,
Like
he played like one or two games, right?
none,
None.
none. He's practiced like once or twice. Like he has not. He went out in the first training camp practice because remember it was that shitty field.
Oh
Crazy.
yeah, at like some shitty university. It was in Canton, right? Because they were there for like
Is it
some
like a high
commemorative
school or something. Yeah. So I mean, and so that begs the other question: like, is he worth signing? Either this dude, I don't know. I don't even know.
I know an evil genius that would love to have AJ Green right now.
Sure, sure. Bill Belichick he'd chew him up and spit him out if he wasn't worth the trouble, or
Yeah.
he'd set another single season touchdown record.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, so
I'm here for it from an entertainment standpoint. I'm always pro player. It'd be interesting to see, and it probably won't because the players have no power, even in the CBA. If anything happens with the franchise tag, I know there's things that are higher on the list for players than as far as like medical things go and stuff like that and commissioner's power, but every single holdout it seems like has been like a franchise tag thing. Even the whole passive aggressive thing between Kirk Cousins and the Redskins for like 4 years with the franchise tag.
yeah, I mean, I'm generally a player guy too, but in this case, and for the record, I'm neither an economist nor an accountant nor a lawyer. But the franchise tag is a lot of money. You're getting paid the average of the top 5 players of your position, and it's guaranteed. It's a guaranteed contract once you sign it. So it's like a signing bonus of $18 million for AJ Green. A lot of these guys sign these deals where they get a $10 million signing bonus, and then their salary for the first year is like $2 million, so it lowers their cap. And then like the next year, they get a bunch of money, and then they get cut on the third year. So it's like, dude, if you'd have just signed the franchise tag twice, you'd have made more money. Like, so hey, if the NFLPA wants to fight it, I'm not gonna get all worked up about it. But to me, it seems like a nice thing where like a team can exercise a little bit of control, but the player gets a ton of money for it.
Yeah. I think it all just depends on the the climate around the negotiations to that point, and if there is anything, which there doesn't seem to be in this case. There doesn't seem to be a. I don't know why AJ would want to stay there, even though he's expressed wanting to have a finish his career as a Bengal. He said the right things, but um, uh, differently than the other high profile franchise tag stuff. Recently, it's all been guys that are at the end of their first contract, and AJ's a
Yeah.
little older, and so he's probably looking at like, what are some things I want to accomplish before my career's done, and I don't have any juice left, and championships are typically one of them. And
Yeah, and that's fine. And that might be what he wants, but
yeah,
like he hasn't said it, so
yeah,
go with it. And here's the other thing about the franchise tag. Two things really. When you get signed to the franchise tag, or a team at least offers it to you and you don't sign it, you have officially established a market. So, like, for example, to
yeah,
keep it in the AFC North, Bud Dupree is going to be a free agent. In order to keep him from, like, being able to just go into free agency, the Steelers might offer him the franchise tag, which basically sets the floor at his yearly worth because they're saying we'll pay you $16 million a year for this year. So now you've basically been given a huge bonus as to your worth. Like, is Bud Dupree one of the best 5 linebackers in the NFL? Certainly not for his first 4 years,
right,
but he's going to get paid like it because he's been offered the franchise tag. So that's the other thing it does. Like Kirk Cousins, he never would have gotten $84 million if he hadn't signed 2 franchise tags and established a floor for his value. So you either are worth that and then you get another contract later, or you're not. And in 1 to 2 years, you make more than you would have in your career because you're not that good. So
right.
I don't know. I like the franchise tag. I think it's good. If players want to negotiate different ways to give themselves leverage to get free agency, that's fine. But I actually think the franchise tag has gotten players that wouldn't get that much money more money overall.
Yeah, yeah. I can definitely see that. So
So that's what's going on.
Pat
AJ Green,
McAfee talks about being offered the franchise tag uh,
yeah,
on his podcast a couple times, and that's what he talked about was the money. It's like, oh, like guaranteed money, sweet, yeah, let's do
yeah.
it.
And I was gonna say like maybe he's the one guy that won't want it because like the fifth highest paid punter might
Yeah.
basically make the veterans minimum. Like it might not be too much, um, but yeah, guaranteed money. So basically, surprise, surprise, the Bengals have players that don't want to be there, or they want to be there, but the Bengals won't pay them what they're worth. This is not new news, and it might work out either way. Either he'll stick around, and the Bengals will have their franchise player, and the fans will have someone that they have their jersey that's still on the field, or he'll go somewhere like Andrew Whitworth and compete, and hopefully
Yep.
compete at a high level, and end his career competing for a Super Bowl. In other news, I wanted to check this, and I'm sorry you're not here to hear this, Justin, because we had a big, lengthy debate about these rumors about Browns players and whether we should talk about them because they were rumors. There was reports. They still might be true, but at this point, we have confirmed both OBJ and Jarvis Landry came out, spoke to the press, and said they want to be in Cleveland for the future. They have plans. OBJ talked in his press conference about building a house in Cleveland. He never built a house in New York. He's like, look, I want to be here for the future. It was actually kind of funny. He talked about like adding walls to his house and stuff. I was like, what kind of house do you have? Like, this is like giant open space. And he's like, I'll just add walls as I feel it out, like good dividing area.
Yeah.
But he also said specifically, I am not going to the Steelers. Quote, for sure, not going to the Steelers. And all I have to say is, dude, why are you being so harsh, OBJ? Because, like, I don't think I want you either, but we don't have to be like that, We can just be coy about it.
Yeah. Leave the door open a little bit, man.
Yeah,
you
just
never
have a little
know.
respect, I respect your talent. I wasn't going to say out loud we don't want you, but now I don't. I don't want you either. You didn't quit. You were fired, sir.
Yeah, it's now it was one of the things we just brought up. It's like, why aren't these guys denying it? And then we got pretty stern denials from both of them.
Yeah, so good for them. I'd say that the next step is like, come out, play like it.
Yeah.
Play like you want to be there. You can fight with your coach on the sideline. Have a heated debate. Talk about how you want the ball. We get it. You're wide receivers. That's all you know.
Yep.
But no hanging your head. Get out there and support your team. Can't make the playoffs every year. And, I want to see it on the sideline. They looked broken last week.
They still make me nervous. I'm scarred.
And they should. Should this segue us into our first game of the week?
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Well, it's not going to be easy for the Browns to maintain their sideline composure this week because they're playing against yours truly, the Baltimore super juggernaut, already planning the parade, Ravens, who, by the way, they should double the porta potties because apparently they found dead bodies in them after their last game. So not the kind of place you want to go to the bathroom.
It's just Baltimore. It's just Baltimore stuff,
Just saying. Double it up for the parade.
Watch The Wire. You get it.
I watched it. McNulty.
Yeah. Yeah. I still 40-25 is wildly uncomfortable, and Nick Chubb is still the same, and so I'm scarred emotionally from that game, and so I know that the Ravens should handily beat the Browns, and that they've been a dumpster fire, but I'm not putting it past them to galvanize together, especially now that they've come out unified against all the crazy reports. So this could very much be this could be the Browns Super Bowl, basically, this year.
Sure. It's certainly not week 17 now. Against the Bengals.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's in Cleveland. They already beat the Ravens at Baltimore. And I think it's going to come down to Browns play calling a lot. The Ravens are going to score points, especially with no Myles Garrett. And the way the secondary's played for the Browns this year, they've been pretty bad, especially recently. Injuries and things like that.
Whitehead.
Right.
They never really recovered at safety.
And so I think that there's not much to talk about as far as I'm concerned with the Ravens have the ball. They're going to score points. They've been doing it to everybody. And there's nothing to make you expect that won't happen.
Let me just say one thing then before you lead us off on the Ravens. Because I only have one note about the Browns defense too. And it's if they play run defense like they did last week against Kenyon Drake, it's going to be one of the worst games to watch of the year. It's going to be really, really bad. They need to shore up the tackling. Look, the Ravens are going to run for probably 180 yards if it's a bad game and 220 if it's what they're going to do. but just tackle, just like tackle some, and then you might be able to keep it competitive, maybe or maybe not, because lead on.
Yeah. So if offensively, it's been taking them a while to just commit to the run game. The Browns need to do that from the very beginning because the Ravens are still vulnerable to the run. Le'Veon had by his standards this year, a pretty decent game last week.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget it because it was on Thursday night. But I'll pull up some stats here. So Le'Veon had 4 yards a carry, 21 rushes for 87 yards. Uh, that may be his best output all year. The Ravens are still vulnerable on the D line. They're still vulnerable up front. The linebackers aren't great. And we've talked about it all this year. We're at the point in the season where, barring injuries and like new faces, we pretty much know who everybody is. And so this is what the Ravens are, and they've been leaning on the much improved secondary from even when they played the Browns. The communication on defense has been better, but Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt is quite a formidable pair. And if the Browns are willing to set aside whatever external pressures, whatever it is that's been kind of thrown a wrench into their play calling this year and kind of like gunked things up as far as like the flow of their offense and just lean into that run game, they could keep it close. They slow the game down, limit how many possessions the Ravens get, because they're scoring touchdowns at like an insane clip as far as like percentage of their drives.
Yeah, it's crazy. The Ravens average over 3 points per drive this year, and it's like well over. It's like 3.4 or something like that. It's historically one of the best there's ever been. So that like blows my mind. I think the Steelers average like 1 point per drive. I'm pretty sure. I don't know the stat at all, but if I had to guess, that's what it would be. I couldn't agree with you more about what you said about the offense. The only thing that I would add to it is that I was like writing my little notes, and I was like, yeah, the Browns get into those two running back sets. They didn't even have Kareem Hunt last time, or maybe it was his first game. I don't know.
No, they didn't.
And it occurred to me, all you do, I get on here every week, and you brag about Lamar Jackson, and you brag about the Ravens secondary, and I'm like, dude, no 3 wide receiver sets, none. I don't want to see 3 wide receivers on the field, even if it's 3rd and 19. I don't want to see it. Who's the Browns' third best wide receiver? You want to be put on the spot?
Higgins.
You don't. No, it's Kareem Hunt. Kareem
Oh
Hunt,
yeah,
third best wide receiver.
yeah.
Like, so challenge the Ravens. Say, okay, oh, you want to put Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey and Jimmy Smith and Brandon Carr and Earl Thomas on the field at the same time?
Chuck Clark.
Well,
Like,
and you want to say they're physical and they want to tackle the running backs? Well, then let them do it all day. Let them do it all day. And then every once in a while, have Kareem Hunt leak out. And, you know, I don't care how upset OBJ is that his stats aren't as good as they could be
nope.
this week. I don't care at all. Because honestly, if they do this, and you can still pass out of these formations, like I said, Kareem Hunt's your third best wide receiver, and your 2 wide receivers are good. Like, people have gotten open against the Ravens this year because they do a lot of blitzes with these formations, and like, and Jarvis Landry and OBJ are great. Like, they're gonna get open occasionally, and if you keep sucking them in with this running game, the linebackers are going to be coming downhill, and Jarvis and OBJ excel on these short routes. They get open after 2 steps. Like, there will be opportunities, but you really have to dedicate yourself. And it's going to be hard because the Browns love 3 wide receiver sets. Oh, they love them so much. They're like candy bars. Or whatever. There's something. Cigarettes. What's highly addictive?
Yeah,
Caffeine.
cigarettes.
They're like that first cup of coffee. They just gotta have it. So they have to fight that addiction. They have to go to their meetings, and good luck.
Yeah, it's to the point now where, like, if they go 0-2 in these last two games, like, Freddie Kitchens' seat is really hot, and it, the trade off for him, he could be trading appeasing OBJ or whatever it is for his job at this point. Like, OBJ is not the only talented player on your team, and he's arguably not the best offensive player you have. So,
I mean, not right now. He's still dropping passes. Like, it's
yeah,
not just about the Browns not getting him the ball.
he
Like,
dropped one right in his gut. The interception drive, that the opening drive that Baker threw the pick in the end zone. A couple plays before that, he dropped one that hit him in the damn chest.
I remember writing that, not that specific play, but in my notes, they're targeting OBJ like crazy, and
Yeah.
he's inconsistent. Like, he made a couple nice catches. He had a couple that I thought maybe even more that I just didn't think he looked that great. So yeah, I mean, I still think he could have a good game. Just
Yeah.
don't expect 10 catches on 14 targets for 200 yards. Like, he could have, I don't know, 4 catches on 7 targets for 120 yards if he plays his cards right and they play their cards right. And that would be the type of numbers I would expect in a competitive or winning performance.
Yeah.
Not that I would bet on it.
Heavens no. Speaking of
Yeah.
betting, I think the line's like 6.5. Let's see what we got here.
That's it.
Oh, 9.5.
That sounds
Ravens plus 9.5.
minus.
Yeah, Ravens minus. Excuse me. Thank you.
That
So
was
that's on Sunday at 1 o'clock. All of our games are at Sunday at 1 o'clock.
yeah. You're gonna have to pick this week.
It's going to be
AFC
a
North Nation.
packed 3 hours of football. So, who are you? Are you on the Ravens for this football game?
Yeah, I expect it. The Ravens can lock up the #1 seed in the playoffs by winning. I believe, if I'm
That's correct.
understanding the numbers. I don't expect them to take this team lightly. They lost to them. They have 2 losses this year. One of them's to the Browns. So
Yep.
I think they want to assert themselves. I also think, like we've talked about it this year, it's hard for the Ravens not to assert themselves. Like, if they wanted to just come out and play conservatively, what would they do? Run the read option,
Yeah,
run Mark Ingram,
right.
throw to the tight ends when they get zone coverage. Oh,
Yeah.
right, that's the Ravens every drive, and they keep scoring 49 points. So
Yeah.
I don't know how the Ravens slow down. They're an avalanche right now.
Yeah, I think there's too many factors to have this be a letdown game. The biggest of which is they're not done. They don't have everything locked up, and this is a team that's very focused on winning and very clear about their goals. And they were embarrassed by the Browns at home. Like, this is like losing to the Chiefs is no big deal in Kansas City. Like, it wasn't a great game, and it wasn't as close as the score ended up being. But losing by 15 at home to the Browns was embarrassing. The way the defense played, like, so I would expect them to come out fired up for this game. I don't expect this doesn't feel like a come out flat type of game for the Ravens. So
Yeah, I think the Browns will play better than they did against Arizona. That's the one thing I would say.
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, and I'm going with my gut again. I'm using my analytics department here, guys and gals. But I just feel like the Browns have been on this emotional roller coaster all year, and it's been a new experience having high expectations, and it's new for a lot of players being in Cleveland and Kitchens being a head coach. And I just think if you ever think that they're trending one way, they're going to be doing more of this stuff. So I think we'll catch them on an upswing, and they'll be competitive. And Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are a matchup nightmare.
Yes.
So I think they'll create some problems for the Ravens defense.
Yep.
In a 10-point loss to 20.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move on to maybe, depending on your perspective, the least interesting game in the division this week. Probably, because even if the Bengals win it, they still have a 1 game lead on the rest of the league as far as the number 1 draft pick goes. But the
Right.
Bengals travel to Miami, which is a notably difficult place to play, even for the most focused of football teams like the New England Patriots. Um, and just ask the Eagles how that goes. To play the Dolphins in a game that we thought for sure was going to determine the number 1 pick, and since then, Ryan Fitzpatrick's fucked around and taken the Dolphins pretty much out of the conversation. But I'm not so sure the Dolphins are the better team still.
It's very difficult. Um, this, this is if this game mattered, it would be so exciting because
Yeah.
of how close it is. When I did my initial analysis, it I was kind of boiling it down in my head, and I was like, I think it comes down to like I think it might just be a coaching situation, and I think Brian Flores has kind of been good. He's like the Dolphins were only spoken about. Like, this was kind of like the Patriots defense early in the year, right? Like nobody was talking about how bad the Dolphins were this year. They were talking about how bad the Dolphins were in history. Like
Yeah.
this is like when they were 0 and 7, they were like this is like the worst team in history. They were like the worst team in the NFL, and then they traded their 4 best players. Like they're crazy bad. Their running back right now, I think his name is PJ Laird. He was he was behind the guy that last time we talked about the Dolphins was averaging like what was it, 2 yards a carry?
Is that
He was
Balaj?
behind him. He was behind him.
I
Like
think it's in the ones now.
it's like which is problematic, right? Because the Bengals run defense is their Achilles heel
Right.
among a body full of Achilles heels. But I still think that the Dolphins, I just think that Flores, he gets something out of these guys, between him and a little bit of that Fitz magic. Like they compete, like they come in, not always. I mean, they didn't compete against the Ravens, that's for sure. And they ended up losing by double digits to the Steelers after opening up a 14-point lead.
Yeah.
But I still believe in the Dolphins a little bit. And like I think the Bengals really I think they want that number 1 pick. Not the players, but like I don't know. I just feel like they're going to let I just know. I don't know. I don't even
Yeah.
think they want
I
them.
have this weird thing going on where it's like, oh, but they have Andy Dalton back. And I just very easily forget that they were winless with Andy Dalton at the beginning of the year. Like,
Dude,
so I don't know. I think Mixon's starting to come on a little bit, and maybe that's the difference in the game is that they've identified, if Mixon the last couple weeks been getting on a roll against a really good defense in New England last week.
yeah, that's a totally fair point. That's when I wrote about the coaches. That's what I said. I was like, I think Brian Flores might be the better coach right now, but Zach Taylor has the game breaker. And that's Joe Mixon. Um, that's a totally fair point. I think that he could be the difference if the Bengals win. But, they just like abandon the run sometimes. They do dumb crap. Like the Bengals, they like cannot block a screen. They like can't run a screenplay. Like it's like a 2/3 chance that there'll be a illegal man downfield. They just like can't do it. Um, or a block in the back by like their smallest wide receiver, like Alex Erickson, will just like not move a person, but like push him in the back
Yeah.
across the field. Um, I'm gonna just mention a few players that might be worth watching because this is gonna be not pretty football. Um, the Bengals might turn over most of their offensive line after this year. But one of the interesting battles that's taken place has been at left guard, and it's been former first round pick and former center Billy Price. And I believe, fourth round pick, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has reassumed the starting position at left guard after they said a Billy Price injury, but I don't think he's injured anymore. So if you're not liking what you're seeing around the ball, and you might not, there might be some bad tackling and bad everything else. Check out the Bengals left side of the line. See if they're confident running behind, and see if anybody streaks through there for a sack or anything. Michael Jordan could be playing for a job next year. On the defensive side of the ball, one of the players that's been doing pretty well recently for the Bengals is Darqueze Dennard. He's number 21. He plays nickel corner. So if the Dolphins have 3 wide receivers, it'll be fun. Last year, one of the Dolphins' best players was Albert Wilson, their slot receiver. He has not been that this year, but it still could be an interesting matchup to watch. And Darius Phillips, we were very excited about him in the preseason. Technically, he backs up Darqueze Dennard on the defense, but he is still their kickoff returner. He had a really bad one this week. Very disappointed because I'm very high on Darius Phillips. I want to be saying good things about him. And lastly, Carlos Dunlap. He didn't make the Pro Bowl. Carlos, I want you to come out this week and prove that you should have been in the Pro Bowl.
There you go. Then you can take Matthew Judon's spot.
Dude, could have been a snub there. Could have been a snub.
Yeah. Kalen Ballage has 74 carries this year.
Wait. 162 yards.
135 yards.
Oh my God.
He's not even averaging 2 yards a carry.
And isn't he not even their starter anymore?
I don't know.
It's Laird. It's a guy named PJ Laird or something. It's a mess.
It's a hot freaking mess. Dude,
every week we talk about how teams are just going to be able to run on the Bengals. This is the week that the Bengals have a... Can you imagine if this Laird guy runs for like 130 yards?
Yeah. He just meets Ballage's season total.
We're not good at talking about the Bengals, but look, if Miami rushes for over 100 yards this week, if we have a Bengals fan listening right now, just get ready. You're going to hear about it. We're going to laugh. We're going to make fun of your team. And that's the way it's going to be. So don't let this Laird guy or anybody else run for 100 yards, and we're going to try and say some nice things. Love Carlos Dunlap.
Yeah, I would love to say some nice things. Fact of the matter, I mean, all the intrigue of this game is gone. In the beginning of the year, there were a lot of people looking forward to this game. A lot of people saying that it should be flexed to Sunday night if it was for the number 1 pick still.
I like that take.
But now, if you don't have to, I don't know why you'd be watching it. You shouldn't be depending on any of these players in a fantasy championship. I don't know why you'd be watching this game. But I, with approximately 17% of Yahoo Football Pick'em Nation, am picking the Bengals this week to beat the Dolphins in Miami.
I don't blame you. I actually had to go back and look at my picks a few hours before the pod here because I couldn't remember. And I was like, I think I picked Miami. Then I was like, no, what about Joe Mixon? I think I picked the Bengals. And then I looked it up. I picked Miami, but it's really a coin flip. I almost switched it, but then I was like, nah, the Bengals stink. Miami's actually surprised some people this year,
Yeah, it's funny that nobody's, until more recently, and never to the same magnitude, nobody's talking about the Bengals tanking in the fashion that they're talking about the Dolphins tanking.
Well, the Bengals didn't ship all their players out.
Right. There were guys, Dominique Foxworth on ESPN had a take that it was morally unethical what the Dolphins were doing because these players were risking injury and their careers putting out bad film for a shitty football team that wasn't trying to win. And now they're in the hole 2 games to the Bengals for the number 1
I think
pick,
the
like,
Giants actually have the second pick right now.
because
don't
they
even
have 2 wins, right?
the Giants have two and the Dolphins have two, but I
The
think like
Dolphins
the
have 3.
tiebreaker. Yeah, exactly. So I think the Dolphins are the third pick. They're not even the second pick. Imagine the Dolphins might not even get a quarterback.
Oh my
They,
god.
you
Oh,
know, who
Jameis.
knows what'll
Jameis might be out there.
dude
Is he an
said
upgrade?
from Fitzmagic.
Almost certainly, right?
He is both an upgrade and a downgrade simultaneously.
I can get with that. That makes sense to me.
God, I'm on the Dolphins. Like I said, I can't explain it. I think that the Dolphins behind Brian Flores, they just have a little bit more competitive spirit overall. I don't
Oh,
think Andy Dalton wants to be there. I think he's like purely playing to get another contract somewhere else. Like he's not.
oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think so too.
so that's a game at 1 o'clock. If you're really into the draft,
Yeah.
uh, then yeah,
Or beards.
that's why you
I don't
watch
know.
that one.
Yeah.
Or if you're a Bengals fan, if we've got Bengals fans here, I hope we do. I hope we do. I hope we're doing a good job, and we keep you coming back. And you're like, man, I can't wait till the Bengals are in first in their division, and these three numbnuts have to talk about how much better the Bengals are than any of their teams every week. I hope that too. Not at all. I don't, but I can see how it would be funny. Let's talk about a team that has a little hope.
Let's.
My Pittsburgh Steelers are playing at the New York Jets, also at 1 o'clock. The Steelers currently reside in the 6th seed. That means that if you like facts and numbers, talking to you, Justin, the Steelers are the 6th best team in the AFC. That's what they are. So they're good. This is a good team. That's all. Nah, just kidding. Um, there's a lot to be nervous about this offense. Uh, I've spent a lot of this season saying, let's just walk it incrementally. Let's see some progress. Let's look for little things here and there. I try to point out little things for the quarterbacks to work on. Then they get benched. Uh, it's been tough. It's been tough sledding. They played the worst defense in the NFL and needed a punt return to get to 23 points. Then they played a defense that's comparable to theirs, and they got 10. They got 10 points. 10 points is not enough to win a football game. It's just not. And that's concerning for me. But on the upside, I said the Steelers needed to win the turnover battle by a lot, but I think I was wrong. I think the Steelers can lose the turnover battle as long as they get some at the right times, because they had 5 turnovers and they still only gave up 7 points on those turnovers.
Yep.
That's pretty great. Their defense is crazy good. And I've said this a couple times in the last few weeks. This is a team that can play from behind because they can give up 14 points in the first quarter and 0 for the rest of the game. That's like a thing they do.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, Miami Dolphins. But to stay on the offense, I'm concerned about James Conner's usage. He looked really good last week, and he ended up with 8 carries. Look, if he's healthy, he needs to get the ball. Like, he needs to get the ball, and he needs to be running behind David DeCastro, and they need to be doing their business. And because he's their best player. Like, he's their best player, and it helps protect Devlin from having to make tons of plays down the field. It sucks the defense in, so he gets more one-on-one matchups. Devlin has shown that in a one-on-one situation, he can throw over the top. Not perfectly, not in stride. It's not a perfect Lamar pass necessarily, but he's getting it out there. So that's a big deal. Also, Jamal Adams seems to be on his way back from injury. He's missed the last 2 games. He's a devastating force of nature, the likes of which the Steelers have not encountered this year. He has 6.5 sacks. He's a safety. It doesn't even make sense. You turn around, he's everywhere. But he's still a threat as a center fielder. So I'm concerned. I'm concerned about what could happen with him because the Jets' defensive coordinator is Greg Williams. And if Justin were here, he would give us a 5-minute story about how much Greg Williams likes to blitz. And the Steelers really struggled with Buffalo's blitz packages last week. So to turn this into a positive story for my nation, if you're looking to see potential immediate improvement from the Steelers' offensive line and Devlin, you'll get that chance because Greg Williams is probably going to blitz the shit out of Duck this week. And hopefully he's going to handle it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some crazy Greg Williams defense stat against rookie quarterbacks out there. I don't know it, but you can bet your sweet ass that Greg Williams is going to bring the heat on Duck Hodges. Yeah, James Conner's your best player, and if he's healthy enough to play, then you just need to feed it. This is the point in the season. Like, if he's out there playing, then he's healthy enough to carry a load. Like, that's just all there is to it. It doesn't benefit you to give him 10 touches in this offense the way that it is. And I wouldn't. The Jets are another. I mean, they haven't met They're similar to the Browns that they haven't met expectations this year. Their offense on paper is capable. It all just hinges on Darnold, and chances are he's going to take a bunch of stupid sacks and he'll throw a pick to Minkah Fitzpatrick because that's like a weekly tradition for NFL quarterbacks. But they have enough talent to score a few times, and that's a potential problem for the Steelers. Robbie Anderson and Jamison Crowder, Le'Veon Bell, who's coming off probably his best game of the year last week. They could get lucky and hit a Robbie Anderson deep ball, and all of a sudden that's 7 points. And 7 points is a lot more valuable against this Steelers team than it is against other teams. It's very similar to the Bills. Like, both of those guys are like the Spider-Man meme, like the Steelers and Bills last week. Like, they're both teams. I think the Bills offense is very obviously in a better spot at this point in the season than the Steelers offense is, but neither team is built to smash the shit out of people. Like, they're going to play closer, low-scoring games, and that's how they want it to look. And if you score 3 touchdowns on them, like, you're probably going to win.
Yeah. There is one way that the Steelers will run away from you, and it's rare, but I call it the Phillip Rivers.
Defensive touchdowns.
Yeah, if you come out and you do some dumb shit real early on offense and the Steelers get like 3 turnovers in the first half, they could score 17 points in the first half and you have 3. And then, like, it's the Chargers game. They ended up winning it like 28-21, but it was 28-0 in the fourth quarter or something, like it was over before it started. You talked about all the players that I wanted to follow up with after I made my sweet joke, which sucks. Robbie Anderson, Jamison Crowder, they are threats in the receiving game. But Steelers Nation, fret not, because Demaryius Thomas of the notorious Tim Tebow game has not been practicing this week. So if you've been having nightmares about a shallow crossing route that turns into an overtime touchdown, which leads to one of your friends doing the Tebow on the bar of the bar you're watching the game at, you don't have to worry about that probably, because Demaryius Thomas is probably not going to play. I think Le'Veon Bell a lot of respect for him. He was a great Steeler in his time here. Um, there, I'm not in Pittsburgh. He could be a threat in the passing game. The Steelers have struggled to guard quality route runners out of the backfield. Um, Mark Barron is on the field all the time, and I think it's like a weekly tradition for me to complain about him in coverage. So that's an issue. And speaking of complaining about Mark Barron in coverage, if you're in your fantasy football championship but you don't have a tight end, I would suggest Ryan Griffin. He's tied for the Jets' lead in receiving touchdowns with 5. And if you've watched a Steeler game this year, you've seen a tight end score a touchdown, and it's not usually the Steelers. So
Has that happened in every? Have they allowed a touchdown in every game? That would be an
I don't know.
insane statistic.
I don't think so, but it happened last game.
Yeah.
It definitely happened last game. One of the Bills' touchdowns was to. It wasn't Knox though; it was the other one. But I mean, right up the seam, like it. They give up touchdowns to tight ends. They're like, there's Arizona. I'm gonna reach out of the screen so you can see how bad Arizona is at defense, and then the Steelers are very bad at covering the tight ends, even in man coverage, despite their athleticism at linebacker. So Ryan Griffin for fantasy football owners in their championship games. If they score a touchdown this week, I am projecting that he will be the one that gets it.
There you
Or
go.
Demarius Thomas, even though he's not playing.
Yeah. It may not be too late for the Jets to sign Tim Tebow off the streets. Then the Steelers are really fucked.
Do not give me a panic attack right now. I do not need that in my life.
Yeah, that's all you need. New York Jets have signed Mets minor league center fielder Tim Tebow.
Right? Oh my god, it's happening again. Yeah. All that being said, I'm on the Steelers this week. It's been, despite their incredible play, I feel like it's been a couple weeks since the defense played at like a historically high level. They've just been playing at like a seasonally excellent level. And I just feel like, dude, you should have heard Cam Hayward talking after the game about like why they lost and like how they like had the Buffalo at like 3rd and 15 and they ended up giving up a touchdown. Like he is a volcano waiting to erupt. And in case you guys are wondering, Cam Hayward has been erupting all year. He is a devastation. Nobody wants to block him. I don't even know who's on the Jets offensive line because they might not exist after this week. It wasn't worth looking up their names.
Kevin Mawai and Nick Mangold and
Oh, they're pretty good,
Willie
but
Colon.
not good enough. Not good enough.
DeBrickashaw Ferguson.
Yeah, they're good, but it doesn't matter. Dude, Cameron Hayward doesn't care. He's better than everybody right now.
Yeah, he's I would God, if he was a Raven. Goodness gracious. That guy's
Yeah.
incredible.
You guys do great work with interior tackles that have that type of talent. It's a shame that, you got to live without one for 1 year before they find another one.
He's like Haloti Nada filled with rage. It's amazing.
I don't know if I'd put him on peak Haloti Nada level, but they're both excellent, excellent players.
Yeah, I'm on the Steelers too. Bovada Sportsbook has them -2.5 right now. That's the last I saw, which is pretty interesting. If that holds, I might put some money on the Steelers. We've talked about low scoring games, and the lower scoring your game is, the larger 3 points really is, but we'll see.
Well, on the upside, as long as you're not a superstitious person, and I haven't talked about it yet this year, but Justin Tucker isn't the only good kicker in the AFC North. Chris Boswell has been a really good kicker for the Steelers. He had a really rough year last year to the point where there was a competition for the job. Chris Boswell didn't miss a kick at all in training camp or the preseason, and he's basically been doing it all year.
Yeah.
He doesn't have quite the leg of a Justin Tucker, but basically, if they'll ask him to kick from anything basically under 50 yards, and he's been good for it. I think he's missed one or two all year. He's having an awesome year. So, 3 points, they can get it. If this game is tied late, the Steelers don't have to be inside the 10, like the Patriots do to get a clean look at it.
Yeah. That's a good little nugget there. Mm-hmm. All right. So, you want to go around the league a little bit?
Yeah, we can go around the league.
As we're wont to do on these preview podcasts.
Yeah, let me pull up the game so you can.
Yeah, I'll kick it. I'll kick us off. Little segue from Chris Boswell to another interesting kicker. Once again, because they're perplexing to me and I don't know what to make of them, especially after last week, I'm going to be watching the Titans really closely. I feel like they're kind of kindred spirit to me, how they've got Derrick Henry, a bruising running back, and a journeyman quarterback, and a fun coach. But they kind of stunk last week against the Texans at home. I was really actually super disappointed. And they host the New Orleans Saints. But my segue was about kicking. The Tennessee Titans, as a team, are 8 for 18 on field goals this year.
What?
They have not made half of their field goals this year.
As a team, I like that. How many kickers have they had?
3. So they've had Cody Parkey of Double Doink fame, who was actually like 2 for 2 or 3 for 3. He only played a little bit. And their other guys fucking stink. But they have a Pro Bowl punter. So that's interesting, and I'm sure if they end up making the playoffs like it looks like they're poised to do, there'll be some kind of crazy statistic. What's that?
The Titans?
Yeah.
So you're saying they're going to pass the Steelers? That's what you're saying? You're saying that to my face?
Maybe. I don't know.
You sure? You sure you want to say that to my face right now?
Yeah, I think I just did.
Okay. I'm also very interested in this game because of that. Although it turns out that, like, mathematically, this game doesn't affect it very much because the Steelers because it's an NFC game, basically. So if they end up tied record, they could lose to the Saints and it still it wouldn't affect it the way their Week 17 rematch with Houston, or you're talking about. Yeah, you're talking about the Titans with Houston would be. I still want them to lose. I want that cushion.
Of course.
I want to feel, I want to beat the Jets, and I want to feel that game. I want to feel it in my bones. Even though if they come back and beat Houston and the Steelers lose to the Ravens, I think they would then pass the Steelers for the 6th seed. But I still want them to lose. You just want your competition to lose.
You got to feel pretty good about it's the Saints.
I do.
They're possibly the best team in the NFC, just depending on your philosophy.
I think they're like the 3rd seed right now.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks are the 1.
Yeah,
and
they all
maybe
have
the
3
Packers
losses.
are the 2.
Yeah, but because of tiebreakers, it's like if the Seahawks lose, I think the Saints pass the Packers. So it's like. Yeah. It's very weird, but the point is that the Saints aren't resting anybody. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident that the Saints will beat the Titans, but Titans have been playing pretty well for the most part lately, so it's a good one. I'll jump in and basically bring in the other game that matters for my Steelers, and that's the Houston Texans playing at Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston is an anomaly. If you want to dive into good Scrabble words, a cone, which is an unsolvable riddle, that's with a K. Playing Scrabble with a K, cone, K-O-A-N. That one was for free people. He's terrible and also glorious at the same time. He put up like 500 yards and 6 touchdowns or something against the Rams this year. And I want him to do it again because if Houston loses, they're playing for the division title against Tennessee in week 17. And if they win, I just didn't feel like trying to figure out what they'd be playing for in week 17. And I can't have them benching people. I just don't want anybody benched. I can't have the Steelers playing the Ravens and then Tennessee bench, like having to play Houston's bench. Houston's starters are barely trustworthy.
TJ Yates and who knows.
And I don't even want to hear about the fact that, oh, the Steelers will be probably playing the Ravens bench. Dude, they'll be playing the Ravens offensive bench. That doesn't mean the Steelers are going to score any points. Like, like it's still gonna be a hard game. Like, we'll talk about that next week, hopefully coming off a win. But like, they can't bench everybody. They're still gonna have like 2 of their 4 All-Pro secondary players guarding our freaking rookie and
Yeah.
second-year guy. Like, you know. So anyway, I want Tampa Bay to win. It's the only time I'll root for Jameis Winston all year.
Yeah, this could be your classic 45-42 type of game. The way that these offenses like to play and these defenses give up points. Jameis has thrown for 450 plus yards in 2 straight games now.
Yeah, that's bonkers.
And he only threw 1 interception last week.
I will say if you want to do one more game, because I think both the ones we talked about are
At 1 o'clock.
And that's lame. We got to talk about a game that we can also watch, because we're going to be watching our own teams Monday night. Sometimes they blow it with the Monday night game. Not this time. Green Bay is headed to Minnesota to play the Vikings. Lots of playoff implications here. I think Minnesota can still technically win the NFC North. If they win this game and some other stuff happens, good for them.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that I'm never going to research this, so it's just worth saying as a probable lie. But is this the first time Kirk Cousins is going to beat a team with a winning record?
Maybe.
Let's just keep saying it. Like,
Yeah.
every time.
Probably.
Because the teams that he beat Dallas, right? But then they stink.
Yeah, they're not good.
Yeah.
Dallas just got back to 7-7.
So, like, Kirk Cousins, it's on you. You're at home. Can you do it for the first time ever in history of your whole career of $85 million guaranteed dollars plus all those franchise tags? Can you do it? I don't think so. Packers haven't been playing that well, but it's Aaron Rodgers. Like, at some point, you just have to believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to come in with all that swag and a slightly different new mustache, and he's just going to stroll up in there with his bolo tie, not giving a shit, and he's just going to casually. He might not even play good. He might throw for like 300 yards and a touchdown and 2 interceptions, but Aaron Jones will like run for 150, and he'll go into his press conference like, yeah, we just get it done.
Low key, chances of Aaron Rodgers throwing 2 interceptions on Monday night, real small. Very small. Aaron Rodgers has 2 interceptions all season. And over the last 2 years, Aaron Rodgers has 45 touchdowns and 4 interceptions over the last 2 seasons.
What? That's really good.
It's really good. Everybody wants to talk, and their offense has been kind of disjointed. They go quarters at a time without scoring any points, and for an offense with a widely regarded great quarterback, it's kind of weird.
And wide receiver.
But also, I'm not sure if Dalvin Cook is playing. I'm not really up on him. I know he left last week with a shoulder injury. I don't know how serious it was, but if he doesn't play, I think the Vikings might be fucked. But
that's a great point.
We'll see.
He was officially listed as did not practice on Thursday.
There you go. So that doesn't bode well. He's got an extra day maybe to get ready, but
And
We're at the
if you're
point in the
really,
season. I don't know if practice is like super necessary, but
yeah, that's a big factor also. And if you're like a really big football fan and or fantasy football need to get a life person account, um, rookie Alexander Madison, who had all sorts of hype in the preseason, also did not practice Thursday,
ooh,
ankle. So, so hey, two free fantasy football championship stuff here. Mike Boone, likely starting running back for
had 2
Minnesota.
touchdowns last week for Minnesota.
That's right. So he's the guy that's going to get the carries if everybody else is out. And guess what? If they're both not playing, Minnesota probably only has like one other running back besides Mike Boone, which means they're not going to get any carries.
He's probably a fullback. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So, Mike Boone and whoever else I said to pick up.
There you
Can't
go.
remember.
Thank us later. Ryan Griffin.
Ryan Griffin. I'll probably be wrong about that one because the Steelers aren't going to give up.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I don't think we need to talk about shitty games. We already talked about the Bengals and the Eagles and the Dolphins. Look at that Freudian slip. The Eagles and the Cowboys play for who wants to lose the NFC East the least.
That is a big game. Is it also at 1 o'clock or
It's
is that
at
a late
4:25.
game? Oh, nice. So now we've got our afternoon planned.
America's game.
Nice. Who do you have in that one?
I don't know, man. I think Dallas. They seem like obviously the better team, and I know they like whopped the Eagles earlier this year, but
I'm taking the Eagles. I think the Eagles are winners, and I think Dallas are losers. Like, I just think, like, it's basically like why I picked Cleveland to lose. Like, when it came down to it, when they really needed it, just to have that little bit of hope, they just lost against Arizona. I think Dallas is like that. I think when they really need it, they just find a way to suck. And I think Philadelphia, they've shown like tons and tons of resolve in the last few years. They haven't always come into it as like, the top seed, whatever.
Right.
Like, they lost Carson Wentz, like they play well in and around adversity. And so I think also being at home, and with the revolution of Miles Sanders, who's been awesome as the season has worn on, I think the Eagles got it, and I'm pretty confident in that. If
All
Dallas is favored, what do they say in the business? Put a unit on it.
That's right.
Unit.
Maybe
For
sprinkle
me, that is $1.
Maybe sprinkle a half unit on the first half line and then another half on the game line. That way,
There you go.
That's what you do when you're not sure about a total. If you're not sure about the over, like, because a lot of times the first half totals, it'll either be like really obviously off one way or the other, because like if the total's really high, and they'll make like the first half total like just half of that, which typically if they're going to be a lot of points scored, like more will be in the second half. So if the line's like at halftime, you bet the under on the first half and the over on the total.
I had no idea that we were this level of gambling podcast. If you've learned anything here, people, always be sprinkling.
Sprinkle. Every day I'm sprinkling.
Always be sprinkling.
All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We will be back on Tuesday after a wonderful Saturday and Sunday full of football. Saturday's going to be weird, man. I'm going to be doing something at some point in the afternoon and realize that I missed like the first quarter and a half of whichever game is the first game. And then I'm going to sit on my couch and turn the television on, and my wife's going to be like, "It's not Sunday. Why are you watching football all day?" And because the playoffs are around the corner. That's why.
One more fast fact for you. When the Browns beat the Ravens on Sunday, they will be 7-8 but 4-1 in the AFC North.
Crazy, right? And they're almost certainly going to smash the Bengals.
Yeah.
I almost want that to happen.
I don't blame you.
As much as I could, I want that to happen.
You'll still get the 1 seed.
I'm confident.
Actually, no, because you got to lose to the Steelers week 17.
Oof, that'd be rough.
Yeah.
Definitely
We'll worry
not
about that
peaking.
later.
Definitely not peaking at the right time.
Well, that's why I brought up the Browns thing early, so it doesn't have to happen. Covered it.
There you go. All right, everybody. Have a good weekend, and we will see you on Tuesday.